with Pink and Maine. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to be making some cards with the You're a Blessing Crafty Courtyard kit. This was our kit for October 2022. As of filming this video, you can still get this kit. So head over to pinkandmaine.com and check it out for yourself. I've got all the parts and pieces cut for our first card, and it's going to be kind of a fun card inside a card, the way it opens up. We've got like a smaller inset card in our regular A2 size card. So what you start out with is a side folding A2 size card. And then I've just cut half of the front of the card off. So that's just cut in half. So we're still got that opening side. And then I've taken another A2 size card base and I've cut an inch off of two sides basically. So instead of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, we're gonna have 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. So you just cut it down an inch smaller than the A2 size card. And that gives you about a 1/2 inch border around the front card piece. So it's gonna open like that and then open like that. And I've cut out of the paper pad lots of little layering pieces to decorate this card. The first thing I'm gonna do is put a piece of cardstock on the inside of our larger card base. So with the really pretty Riverwalk cardstock, I've cut a rectangle with our scalloped rectangle dies. Now I'm gonna glue the smaller card base down inside the bigger card base on top of that piece of blue cardstock. And you just want to center that on the inside of that larger card base. And now I'm just going to decorate the different pieces of the card. And I thought it would be fun to decorate the inside panels as well, even though they close up inside the card. As you open the card up, you see all the different layers and colors. It just makes it a more bright and cheerful little card. So I've cut a strip of the pebble cardstock to go on this inside opening. And then I've cut a strip just a slightly smaller of the pink polka dot from the paper pad. I'm going to layer those together and glue them in the card. I also cut 2 pieces of cardstock to go on the inside flap of the smaller card base. Again with that Riverwalk cardstock and a piece of pattern paper from the paper pack. So here's our card so far. Not too fancy on the outside. But once we open it up, we're getting more colorful. So now just like on the inside of the flap, I've also cut some of the Salon cardstock and the blue polka dots from the paper pad. I love how using liquid glue gives me a few seconds to just kind of shimmy my piece just where I want it before the glue sets and dries. And now we've got a couple of layering pieces for the outside of the card. I've got a piece of the Park cardstock along with a nice grid or plaid pattern piece. We'll glue those down to the front. And here is our card so far. It is just colorful and cheerful and just opens up in a fun way. This kit is themed You're a Blessing, and it's all about saying thank you, how much you love and appreciate someone. And it's always really nice to have thank you cards on hand for any time that you need them. So I've cut out with the die that's in the kit the thank you from the paper pack. So we have a paper that has this thank you with bursting colors all around it. The die that's in the kit cuts that perfectly. So I didn't even have to stamp it for this card. And I'm just going to put it right there on the front. I've added some foam tape to the back for a little extra dimension. And then just down here on the bottom, I've got the sentiment. I stamped it on the night sky cardstock. I appreciate you more than you know. And I heat embossed it with our frosting embossing powder, which is a nice opaque white. And it just stands out so nicely on that purple cardstock. I'll just add a few of the glitter enamel dots that are in the kit to finish off the card. And here's our first card. I think it's super cute. It was super easy to put together, and I didn't even have to stamp all that much. I used a lot of the papers from the paper pack and just stamped and heat embossed my sentiment. I don't know about you, but I always need lots of thank you cards on hand. I love to give them out and send them just to say thank you for the kind things that people do. So for the next 4 cards, we're going to use the envelope seals and make some quick thank you cards. So they're great for your envelopes, but you can also use them to make cards. So they're all going to have a little bit different look, but they're going to use the sticker as the main sentiment. For the first one, I have A2 size card base. It's a side folding card, but we're going to open it up from the bottom. I've cut 2 layering pieces, one from the night sky cardstock, and then this beautiful plaid from the paper pad that I've cut slightly smaller. So there's just a thin purple border there. And we're going to glue that down to the card base first. Next, I've cut a piece of the Park cardstock. It's kind of a long rectangle. It's long and thin. And then a layering piece to go on top of it from the paper pad. It's the piece that looks like ink splatters. And we're going to glue those down onto the card front as well. From the Dress Shop cardstock from the kit, I've cut out this circle with our zigzag circle dies. I love that little zigzag effect that it gives. And we're going to put that on the card. And I've stamped and embossed, "You've always been there for me." I'm going to take one of the round stickers and I'm going to place it on my die cut circle. So there we have the thank you, and I'm going to put that on the card. I've added foam adhesive to the back to give it just a little bit more dimension. Add a few of our glitter enamel dots. And there's our finished card. Quick and simple, but super cute. For the next one, I'm going to be using a top folding A2 size card. And I've cut a layering piece with the Dress Shop cardstock and then this diagonal stripe from the paper pack. And we're going to layer those onto the card front. I've cut out another circle with a zigzag circle die, this time in the Riverwalk cardstock, and I'm going to add one of the thank you stickers to the top of it like we did before. We're going to put this in the lower right-hand corner of the card, but I've got a strip of the park cardstock to go across, and it just kind of anchors that circle down to the card and adds a little bit to the design. This is a super simple card design when you need something quick. And again, I've added foam adhesive to the back of my circle to pop it up a little off the card. A couple glitter enamel dots, all we need to finish this off. And here's our simple but sweet card. I've got another A2 size card base, side folding. I'm going to open from the bottom. And to layer on top of it this time, I've taken some of the Salon cardstock and I've run it through with the embossing folder to give it some fun texture. Next, I cut 2 thin strips of paper. I've got the Dress Shop cardstock. It's about 1.5 inches wide. And then I've got this fun plaid. It's about 1.25 inches wide. And we're going to glue that across the front of the card towards the bottom. This time I've cut from the Night Sky cardstock a scallop circle. I've used our scallop circle dies to cut out that shape. I'm going to put one of the thank you stickers on top of it. And I've added some foam tape to the back for dimension, and we'll pop it on the card. I've stamped the sentiment, "You are simply amazing," and I've heat embossed it again with our frosting embossing powder. I just cut it out with a little strip with a little flag end there, and I'm going to glue that down to the card. You could add some glitter enamel dots to this, or you could leave it as is. I'm going to leave it as is. I like to let that texture from the embossing folder just shine. There's our next card. For our last card with a sticker, I've cut out from the Park cardstock another scallop circle, and I'm going to add the thank you sticker to that. And now we'll start to build our card layers. I have a piece of the Salon cardstock, that pink, and I'm going to layer this colorful rainbow from the paper pack on top of that. For the next layers, I've cut a rectangle from the Riverwalk cardstock, and then this lovely little heart pattern from the paper pack, slightly smaller than that. And we're going to layer that in the center of the card. I've cut it about 1 inch smaller than my rainbow layer, so we have about a 1/2 inch border around it. Next, I've cut a 1/4 inch strip of the Night Sky cardstock and about a 3/4 inch strip of the Dress Shop, just long enough to fit over this top layer with the hearts. Next, we're just going to add our thank you element. Again, I've put foam tape on the back for some added dimension. And there is our fourth card using the thank you stickers. Next, I have a side folding A2 size card base, and I've got a piece of that tan or pebble cardstock, and I've cut it just slightly smaller than the card base, so you have like a thin white layer around the edge. Next, I've taken this piece from the paper pack. It looks like beautiful purple watercolor background, and I've stamped and embossed the thank you from the stamp set. And I tried something fun, and I thought it turned out pretty cool. I wanted like a really thick layered look for it. I want it to really stand out. So I stamped and embossed it with our frosting embossing powder. Once I heat set it, then I stamped it again with our embossing ink, poured more powder over it, and I just layered that powder about 3 times. So I've got almost like an enamel look, which is really cool. I've cut this piece of paper with our notched corner dies. I just like those fun little notched out corners. It does have stitching around the edge that finishes it off nicely. So next I have 2 strips of paper, just to add a little more color. I've got this diagonal stripe that we're going to put down here towards the bottom. And then with our embossing ink, I have stamped from the bottom of my heart. And I didn't emboss it. I just used it as a watermark ink. So our embossing ink is also a watermark ink, so it just deepens and darkens the tone of the cardstock that you stamp it on. And it just gives a softer look so that thank you really stands out. So we'll glue these to the card. There's our card. For our last card, we're going to take a top folding A2 size card base and we're going to make a shaker card. I could not go without using the beautiful sequin mix that's in this kit. So here's what I've got. For my base layer, I've cut with our scallop rectangle the night sky cardstock. On top of that, I've used our stitched rectangle dies, and I cut this fun grid pattern so that it's the size that fits within the scallop rectangle on the bottom. Then I took the die, the thank you die that's in the kit, and I cut it out of the pattern paper. I glued a piece of acetate or transparency sheet or even a piece of the packaging from one of the stamps or dies, and I glued that on the back. So it's glued on the back here. And then I made a frame with my foam tape because my shaker pieces, the sequins are going to be in this part where it says thank you so you can see through. So I made sure that the foam tape goes completely around that section with no opening for those pieces to fly out. So first we're going to glue down our rectangle. That's the base piece. Then we have our window piece that's been cut out. And that's all you need for a shaker card is just something with a window cut out. You put a clear piece behind it so that nothing falls out through the holes. And then you line it with some foam tape. So before I glue that top piece down, I'm going to add some sequins to the card. I'm going to keep them all up in the portion of the card that thank you is going to cover. And now I'll remove the release paper from all of my foam tape. Now we're ready to add this piece to our card. I'm going to carefully put it over the sequins. And press down so that all the foam tape adheres firmly to the card. And then we can shake it around under there. I've got a couple of strips of paper to add to the bottom. I've got a wider strip of the dress shop cardstock and then a thinner strip of the hearts. We'll glue those to the card. I've got a strip of the Night Sky cardstock, and I've stamped and heat embossed "I appreciate you more than you know." We're going to put that across. And then with the dies in the kit, I cut out a couple of smaller hearts to put over here on this strip of Night Sky cardstock. There, and I think they finish off our card perfectly. How fun. Thanks so much again for joining me today as I created cards with the You're a Blessing Crafty Courtyard kit. I hope you're grabbing your kit and crafting along with me. We made 7 fun cards. They went together in a flash, it seems, and we've barely touched the surface of what's inside the kit that you can use. I didn't use the stencil and so much more. You can find this kit, as well as some others, as long as they last, over at peekandmain.com. And until next time, my friends, keep living the creative life.